In this lesson, you'll learn some basic yet essential Linux commands. Learning these basic Linux commands can be incredibly valuable for someone new to Linux. These commands can help you quickly navigate through the system and perform common tasks. However, these basic Linux commands that you'll learn here are universal and can be used on any Linux distribution, making them an essential foundation for your Linux knowledge. The first thing you need to know about Linux commands are that they're case sensitive. So lowercase pwd is not the same as capital P, capital W, capital D, for example. This really isn't much of an issue because most commands in Linux are all lowercase. Of course, there are a few exceptions, but again, the majority of Linux commands are in all lowercase. The first command to know is pwd, and it displays the present working directory. I like to think of the present working directory as my current directory or the directory that I'm in. For example, when you log into a Linux system, you're automatically placed into your home directory. Your home directory is typically /home/your username. As you can see, I have a screenshot where I've logged into a Linux system as the user named admin user, and I executed the pwd command. The pwd command displayed my present working directory or my current directory as /home/admin user. cd is the change directory command, and it does exactly what its name says. It changes your present working directory. As I mentioned before, when you log into a Linux system, you're automatically placed into your home directory. Your home directory again is typically /home/your username. In order to navigate to a different location or directory on the file system, you will use the cd command followed by the directory you want to change into. If you don't provide a directory to change into, then the cd command will place you back into your home directory. The next command to know is ls, and it lists the contents of directories. So when you execute the ls command, you will see what files and directories exist in your current working directory. ls can also display detailed information about files and directories. For example, if you use the -l option to the ls command, it will display a long listing format. It's important to note that you need a space after the command and before the hyphen, so it's ls space -l. The cat command concatenates files. Essentially, the function of the cat command is to show the contents of files. The clear command clears the screen. If you have output from several different commands displayed on your screen and you want to start over with a fresh view, type clear, hit enter, and you'll have a nice clear screen to begin filling up again. Linux systems come with built-in documentation. You can use the man command to display documentation for a given command. If you hear someone talking about man pages, this is what they're talking about. The documentation that can be viewed with the man command. By the way, man is short for manual. Personally, I use man pages as my primary source of information. I rarely use a search engine to learn how to use a command because the built-in man pages correspond directly to the command that is installed on the system that I'm working on. For example, if you want to learn how to display the contents of a directory in reverse order, you could type man space ls and hit enter, and find exactly what option does that. And by the way, it's -r. Once you are displaying a man page, you can press the spacebar to display the next page of information. And once you're done looking at a man page, type Q to quit. To exit or log out of your shell, use the exit command. Let's see some of these commands in action. Here I am logged into a Linux system using an account named admin user. Let's see what my present working directory is. And we can do that with pwd. Okay, pwd reports back that I'm in home admin user. This is the home directory for the admin user, and it's where I would expect to be when I first open up a terminal or first log into a Linux system. As you might recall from earlier, I said Linux commands are case sensitive, so let's see what happens if we type in capital pwd. Okay, we get an error message saying that the command is not found. Let's try other variations of capitalization. Okay, that's not found either. Of course, this isn't going to be found either. And just for fun, we'll do one more. Again, the lesson here is that case matters when using the Linux command line. Now let's use the cd command to change the current directory. Okay, I've typed cd/etc, and that should put us in the etc directory, and let's confirm that with a pwd command. Okay, great. Our present working directory is indeed /etc. Now, if you look at the prompt, you might notice that it contains the name of the directory you're in. This isn't always the case by default, but it is a common practice. In a later lesson, you'll learn exactly how to customize the prompt to your liking. It's also important to know that directories and files are case sensitive as well, so capital ETC is not the same as lowercase etc. We get an error message because capital E, capital T, capital C does not in fact exist because it is completely different than lowercase /etc. If you ever get a message from the shell stating that no such file or directory exists, believe it. Linux isn't going to lie to you. When you execute cd without any arguments, it takes you back to your home directory. And we can confirm that with pwd. Now that we're back in our home directory, you'll notice a tilde in the prompt. And the tilde represents your home directory. It's a shortcut for whatever your home directory is. So when I'm logged in here as the admin user, tilde represents /home/admin user. Now, if I were to log in as the JSON user, for example, tilde in that case would be /home/JSON. Let's go back to the etc directory for a minute. Now let's use the ls command to see what is in this directory. There are so many files in the etc directory that they scroll off the top of our screen. Also in this example, the ls output is color-coded. Now this may not always be the case, but it is a common thing to see on Linux distributions. We can use ls-l to display a long listing with more detailed information about these files. Now you see more detailed information about each file and directory in the etc directory. In a later lesson, we'll cover what all this information means, including the cryptic-looking letters that start each line. Now I happen to know that there is a file named shells in the etc directory, and let me prove that to you by running ls-l shells. To see the contents of a file, use the cat command. So let's run this, cat shells. This file contains a few lines of text. By the way, the contents of this file represent the valid shells that can be used on this system. This really isn't important to know at this point. I just simply picked a file to demonstrate the cat command with. Use the man command to learn more information about how to use a particular command. Type the word man followed by a space and then the command you want to know more about. Here's how to learn more about the ls command. Now that we have man space in the command, which is ls, we'll hit enter. Anything you need to know about the ls command can be found here. In order to display the next page of information, simply hit the space bar. When you're done looking at the man page, type q to quit man. The clear command clears the screen, so let's demonstrate that now. In order to quit or exit your session, type the word exit.